Okay, so a little break from the football. Let's have a look at where Major League Baseball can make improvements for their return to London in 2026. There's three big areas where I think they can do massive improvements. The first area is the broadcasting. That's been an issue since day one. Broadcast. I mean, if you don't have subscription sports TV with either through the Discovery Plus app on the website or through TNT Sports. It's on BBC, but on BBC it's hidden deep down on their iPlayer page. It was very difficult to find this year, more difficult than last year. I know the BBC have actually changed the layout of their website on the BBC Sport page. It's not a good layout. They need to improve that for 2 years' time. That's a big area of improvement that is needed here for the domestic UK audience. For the US audience, I understand there are a lot of complaints with how Fox and ESPN handled the broadcasting this year. Now, I can't tell you about those complaints, but I've read about them. And I did have some feedback from some viewers saying that the broadcasting was terrible this year, and fans generally across the US were not very happy with the quality of broadcast. So that's something they need to fix for the domestic audience in the US. So broadcasting, that's the first thing they need to improve upon. I don't think it's terrible, but it needs improvement. It does need improvement. The second area is scheduling. Now, this year they scheduled it earlier in the summer. It was a catch-22. It was the only real free weekend before the start of the Euros in Germany, which is currently ongoing, where a lot of the sports media will be focusing on, a lot of the sports fans in Europe will be focusing on, and the end of the European sports team club season in rugby union, midway through the rugby league season, football, for example, and ice hockey at the end of May, beginning of June. We had the Champions League final at Wembley the week before, and of course, unfortunately, we had the Challenge Cup final in rugby league and the Premiership Rugby Union final also taking place in London on the same weekend. So that was an unfortunate clash, but it was a catch-22. Major League Baseball were clearly very, very aware of getting as many eyes on the product as possible, and so that weekend was the best slot available. It just was the best slot available. It was unfortunate that it was the only real slot they could do in June, because end of July, August, we have the Olympics, and of course the temperature does get a lot hotter. So, but scheduling, they could potentially do July or later in June. The thing is, in 2 years' time, we have the World Cup in the US, Mexico and Canada. That's the FIFA World Cup. And of course, that's a much bigger tournament than the Euros with more teams. It's a longer tournament. And of course, that is going to really focus the world's sports fandom and the world's sports media to North America in 2 years' time. So they are in a bit of a catch-22 when it comes to scheduling. I would be more surprised if they don't stick it in the same kind of first 2 weeks of June, but I would like to see them alter the start times. I think the Saturday game could be a bit earlier in the day. Just because it's transportation, not just in London but across the UK on weekends, can be heavily disrupted with engineering works. We've also had a lot of strikes in the last couple of years, so transport can be a bit hit and miss. Now, we have much better public transportation links than over in North America, that there is no doubt. It's far from perfect, but to get fans to and from the stadium easily, potentially an earlier start time on the Saturday. The Sunday game was fine at start time, but potentially altering the start times. I understand, obviously, you want to have a big enough TV audience in the US as well, and of course, so far we've seen East Coast and Central US teams. We haven't seen any West Coast teams yet. It will be interesting to see what the start times are like if they decide to choose two teams from the West Coast of the US. So we'll have to see what teams are announced, but I do think scheduling could be an area where there could be a bit more flexibility. They could do it in July, potentially after the Football World Cup's done, or keep it in a slot in June, but again, they have to be mindful of the World Cup. And of course, they have to be mindful of the Challenge Cup final and the Rugby Union Premiership final as well, as a potential TV clash. That goes in with the broadcasting. The biggest area of concern for me, ticket price they've got right now. They seem to have sorted out and worked out a good bracketing of ticketing. The big area of concern for me, however, is how they promote the product, the advertising. I did see a few more adverts and promotional materials online this year than last year. Last year was terrible. It was like a desert. I found one advert last year. This year I saw them start their promotion a bit earlier. Even before spring training camp started, I actually saw them do some promotional materials back in January and February. Still not enough. Of course, my viewership habits have changed massively since 2019. But back in 2019, they had a lot of promotional material out there. The one major criticism people had was the use of Jimmy Carr. So they're now going down the cricketing route using crossover with English cricket players. I don't think that's a bad way to go for the domestic UK audience, but it'd still be interesting to see how they promote it to the US audience, because it is their league that is coming over here to take games. Now, as I say, both teams are play one game at home, one game away, as a technicality. This is one of their home games and one of their away games. But it's going to be interesting to see if they improve upon the advertising and the promotion aspect, because that does cost money. It does cost money to do that. There's no doubt that in the last few years, advertising companies that actually prepare the adverts and do promotional materials for TV, online and billboards, they have felt squeezes in their budgets, and companies are spending less on their advertising budget as well through these advertising firms. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work and improve upon the promotional aspect. But in my opinion, it's better than what it was last year. There still needs to be massive improvement in the promotional side of the product, and trying to get as many adverts out there and as much promotion out there as possible, because I didn't see much. In comparison to 2019, we've gone backwards in regards to promotion, although it was better from last year. So they've got 2 years to figure out that. I think the ticket prices are much more reasonable now than what they were in 2019, which is a big plus, because that was a big contentious area. The broadcasting still needs to improve, and that's again where Major League Baseball has discussions with their broadcast partners, TNT Sports, which is owned by Discovery, Warner Brothers Discovery, and the BBC, about improving the quality of broadcasts. That also needs to happen in the US, because there was a lot of complaints this year about the quality of broadcasting in the US. The overall experience, from what I can gather, there was a lot of positive thoughts about the overall experience. But there's still areas for improvement, and that is broadcasting, scheduling, and promotion. And other than that, I think they've come a long way since 2019. It's just unfortunate they're not coming back next year, and we've got to wait 2 years. That might hurt the growth of Major League Baseball in Europe, the fact that they're not coming back for another 2 years. But we'll see what happens in the future, and we'll see if they actually do end up going to Paris in 2027 as planned, because they've cancelled next year's games. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the Major League Baseball games in London going forward, and in Paris, should they take place. But it'll be interesting to hear from US Major League Baseball fans as well. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching, and we'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.